I'm going to do the order of the class a little differently tonight and possibly other nights, which is I want to kind of check in with you first and hear about the week, hear what's going on in you, and respond to that. I gave some homework last week. I love that word, it's so schoolish. Um, where, along with meditating regularly, I recommended that you do just a brief kind of meditation as we did tonight on just goodwill towards the body and towards any feelings that are coming up in you. Just seeing if you can begin to meet those with goodwill. And then also, I recommended that you notice kind of the goodness and kindness that's around you, and even possibly begin to keep a notebook about that if you're so drawn to. But so I thought I would like to just start tonight to check in and see what you did and how it went. And this is a good time to both share the victories and the challenges of doing this for everyone's benefit. And then after that, I'll give a talk and give another short meditation on goodwill. So, as you're ready and you have something to say, just raise your hand or unmute yourself and we'll go from there. All right, I see Brenda raising her hand. There you go. And you unmuted, so you pop to the top of the thing so I can see you if I put it on speaker view. So go ahead.
All right. So let's see. It took me a couple of days. I had decided I did want to have a little notebook, so it took me a couple of days to get one, and then another couple of days to use it, which arrives at today. So I've started using it today, and I'm
Okay.
quite excited. I have a packet of them, so I'll be able to use this for a long time into the future, and that works really well for me once I finally do it. And I can't believe how many times I shared this week uh, the story that you shared about the Dalai Lama and not allowing his heart and his mind to be basically inhabited um, with, with hatred. Yes. And I shared that so often as a way for me to kind of remind me and to others. It seems to be such the perfect message for so many others right now. I found a lot of comfort in that and guidance. Um, and in terms of my daily meditation, I did it a lot of days, but it's like it's like the weekend, and so trying to kind of figure out how to build that in. I don't do it 100%. But I did find that I'm a lot more kind of like mindful.
All right, great. I'm glad you're doing the notebook. I think that's a great thing. And I'm glad you reminded us again of what I said last week about the Dalai Lama. It's an astonishing. It's so obvious once it's said, but it's so not obvious that when we allow somebody else's actions or speech or anything to like fill us with um, ill will, we are in some sense letting them occupy us, letting them take over the most precious thing in us, which is our heart and our inner experience. And I say that with complete, humility of how that happens to me and it happens to all of us, and it's sort of human and it's sort of natural, and yet um, it's just so empowering to hear. Um, that there is a margin of choice there. Even when it's not pure freedom, there is a margin of choice there to keep the inner space in a state of goodwill. So thank you. Anyone else here want to speak? Yeah, Jim, go ahead.
I have noticed after my meditations a period of clarity and increased energy, and that's just great. It's just, I just experienced doing this, finishing up this course in nonviolent communication, where we're looking at our needs and our feelings, and just made a real connection between some of my behaviors that have been driving my wife crazy and my father and my past. And it was really clear. I spoke clearly. I knew what I was feeling. So this is important because I usually don't. So now I'm left with the task of keeping that open, keeping that challenge open for myself.
All right, that's a big one.
Big one.
It's oddly big. You'd think that you knew your feelings.
Yeah.
But it's surprisingly hard to do.
But in that moment when it was happening, it was very easy and clear.
All right, that's great. It's a blessing.
Yes.
And I think you'll find if when you're meditating, that the clarity of that feeds into the clarity of knowing your needs and feelings
Yeah.
in any moment. You can go ahead, Rich.
I've been taking note of kindnesses that I've heard about. Seen some directly. The one that's coming to mind though is one that a friend was telling me about this week, where there was some kind of assessment, like maybe like a tax assessment or maybe an excise tax or an abatement. I'm not really sure exactly what it was, but my friend was telling me they thought that not that they thought, but more that they were feeling guilt of not having paid it. And it was just a situation where they had called the town offices and were going through it, and that the person on the other line had a surprisingly good bedside manner for someone in city government, and had a lot of empathy and was able to, you know, let my friend know that it was something that you can roll over to the next year, and that it really, I think in a kind way, was letting her know that it wasn't the big on fire deal that my friend thought it was. And just little things like that can make a real big difference in your day, especially if you're going through a really difficult period in your life. And yeah, that was the biggest example I came up with this week, and I was glad that my friend shared that with me.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that sort of kindness on the part of civil servants, and even the goodness of wanting to pay your bill. It's how the world works. Is sort of wanting to do right. So anyone else, like what happened this week? What can you say you noticed? All right, JP and then Sandy.
I had the experience one day of working in kind of a remote situation where there was a clinical challenge that was quite difficult. And the next day, I called my colleague who to report to and report the experience. And she was so wholeheartedly and full-throatedly supportive of my concerns that I was uplifted in a way that was really I shouldn't be so surprised because of who she is, but just because of the complicated experience and the hard time that I had, and it just with her input turned into something so positive. And just also realizing when goodwill is happening, how much more was highlighted to me as was happening. Nothing really happened as big as that that really stood out, but smaller kindnesses were evident in a kind of a highlighted way. I also wanted to mention that I after your talk last week and how hard it was to really express goodwill on top of ill will. I thought about your class on equanimity, so I went back and looked at my notes from then. And I just want to say that was also so helpful and so supportive to the present moment or the present experience that you were talking about post-election. And so I filled my mind with that, those old notes. And
does anything in particular stand out? Do you remember any thing that you could share? And I'm really taken by the point that yes, equanimity is really important for goodwill. You sometimes it's the evening out that's needed first. Yeah.
Well, I think that was what really popped out at first was what you had said about equanimity being the grounding of the other three qualities of heart: the compassion, the joy, and what's the other one?
Goodwill, kindness.
Goodwill. But I could see as I read on that the importance of the equanimity as a supportive and balancing measure to anything else that the heart was experiencing. I think that stood out the most. But also my memory, I'll paraphrase it, but the emphasis that equanimity and a balanced mind state isn't anything at all checked out. It's a very engaged but very balanced effort. So to really just not run off from the situation that's disturbing, but to stay present in order to then develop the equanimity. That was
Thank you. Those are all good points to review. So very welcome to that. It's a little bit why we do the regular meditation in this class. It's very much about just kind of like grounding you in the body and the breath and calming everything down. It's such an important foundation. And, I thought about doing, just meditations on goodwill, but they seem insufficient unless you have that kind of basic kind of grounding. And so like 5-minute meditations on goodwill seemed like a good addendum to very basic kind of letting the whole system just come down and be still. So All right, thank you. So let's see, Sandy, you were wanting to speak before.
Yeah, I did have my hand up.
Come back in? Yeah.
Popped in, yeah. Um, I actually wanted to talk a little bit about the goodwill to yourself and
Great.
especially dealing with, so um had I've developed some arthritis in my knee and in my hip, and then I have this like 2 hours of driving every day.
Mm.
I've ended up in this situation where my mobility isn't what it used to be. Like I really am struggling with hip and back pain and knee pain. So I haven't been walking as much, which exacerbates everything. And then I start avoiding it because it hurts, and then I'm upset because it hurts, and I'm not moving as much, and the whole snowball. Um, so a good friend of ours, who my husband gets together regularly with to take a hike, like often during the week when I'm at work, invited me to take the day off and go along. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to do it. And then I did. And it was great, except for it hurts, right? Like we're like hiking through the woods, which I haven't done in a while because it hurts. Um, and and I just found like this really nice stick, and I went ahead and walked the 4 miles and let it hurt, and it was okay, right? Like I mean, I'm gonna do a little more CBD on the knees later, but I mean, besides that, I was just kind of like, all right, I'm just gonna be thoughtful about how I walk. I'm gonna pay more attention to how I walk. I'm gonna appreciate what a beautiful day it is. I'm gonna acknowledge that, yeah, that it hurts, but it's this beautiful day, and I'm with my friends and my husband and my dog, and it's a gorgeous day, and I don't want to miss this. So the part where it hurts is just part of the experience, and I want to be here for the experience. And that was my walk today.
Yeah, wonderful. You paid attention to what you needed and what would actually lift you up. And it may be the case that the walk is actually good for your knees and hip. I don't know. I'm not your physical therapist, but sometimes when things hurt, it's not necessarily an act of unkindness to do things that make them sore. It's not necessarily that. It can sometimes be what's needed, that the love of oneself actually means going into things that are unpleasant. I've kind of learned that in my own PT, but it has to be done correctly, and in due measure. But that's part of loving the body sometimes, is moving with pain, with discomfort. So thank you. All right, Allison.
So I missed the first class because I was actually on a plane back from New Mexico, where I had spent an amazing 2 weeks and was carrying a lot of gratitude for just being even able to get there, where I had help with friends to get me to the plane and stuff like that. But I was at a tango festival, and then I did a retreat in Taos, which was a beautiful place to do a retreat. It was a healing retreat. Um, and for me, it was first about regrounding, and trying to hold hope, because of course the election happened in while I was out there and a few days before the retreat. So I came back and I noticed that we're doing Goodwill here, and I've been trying to hold. I can't hold what happened, but I'm trying to hold that sense of renewal and hope, in a sense of holding goodwill and compassion to myself and to those around me. It was quite easy to do it in the retreats. It was quite moving. Um, and I'm back into a situation where I'm a bit isolated. What was challenging is I almost bought a home and I didn't get it again. There's a second bid on it. And I've been really watching to try and again, hold hope and goodwill in spite of a sucky situation. And appreciating the things I can. I do have to put more back in my life. I have more energy. I had some changes in I got some good health care before I went that enabled me to go away for a couple of weeks, which was great. And it's helping with brain fog and stuff like that. But I am finding as it's getting colder and colder and again, um, I'm sort of trying to be mindful that this is going to be a struggle also in as the days get grayer and shorter for me to maintain this. I'm sort of working, And I guess what I decided was to stay in that place of inquiry, sort of watching the sort of up and downs and hoping I can sort of stay more into the steady and up in spite of everything going on, both in the nation, internally, and in the marketplace here, and really focus on connections to the people who also have hold goodwill. I think that was really something key was the energy and the mindset and love and welcoming and support of people around really is significant. So this group, for instance, is one thing. It was really significant to, I think, being able to try and coast through this time with goodwill.
Having people together, supporting each other, being kind to each other, accompanying each other. I keep coming back to that word, accompanying. It's, along with, equanimity, which we talked about just a moment ago, it's that sense of really accompanying yourself and accompanying others that can really matter, that can really be a grounding for goodwill. And so I'm happy to hear that you got some good health care, you're feeling stronger, you've touched in with a good group that's left you in a better place. And you're also very aware that you're heading into the dark and cold, and there'll be moments that you'll need to accompany yourself that are difficult. And that basic kind of accompanying yourself in moments of difficulty is goodwill. It is goodwill to yourself, which feels a little different than kind of collapsing into them and being overwhelmed, taken over by them. Though if that happens, you can always begin again. You always, just like the breath, you can always begin again by accompanying yourself, showing up in the midst of something difficult. So thank you, Allison.